This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions and answer them in video format. A ton of things to get into, so let's just jump into it. First question is going to be from Russell T33, who says, what are the odds we trade Jedrick Wills and a third for Garrett Bowles at the deadline? And if we get him, how much does that improve the team with an actual left tackle? Would also love to see them bring back Reggie Ragland, who was great for us at linebacker last year. Yeah, I don't see the need for Reggie Ragland. He just doesn't fit what they want to do on defense right now. He's a bigger guy, slower guy. Made sense last year when you had terrible defensive tackle play. Doesn't make sense this year. But that's just not a realistic trade, to be honest with you, Russell. Jed Wills in a third for Garrett Bowles. I mean, I just don't think that they value Garrett Bowles that highly, and I don't know if the Broncos would be even willing to take back Jed in that compensation, right? So if you're using that third to get rid of Jed as, and you're using Jed as an incentive to trade Garrett Bowles, then it's probably just going to have to be like a second. But honestly, I don't know if the trade compensation is the issue with Garrett Bowles. It's the combination of the money that Garrett Bowles is owed. You have to ask yourself, does this team feel like that's a good amount for him? If they don't, they're not going to trade for a bad contract, especially for a position like left tackle. And also, like, what are they going to be able to do with Jed Wills' contract? I just think that they're going to look other ways other than Garrett Bowles to fix that left tackle thing. And I don't know much about Garrett Bowles' game. I haven't watched a ton of Denver film, but I'm pretty sure just from the base of what I've seen is that he doesn't really fit like you would think. He's just a decent left tackle, but they're not all the same. Neo Sportswagon says, the defense let the 49ers get in position on that last drive, so they're human. What does San Francisco exploit, and how do you clean that up? We can't call every time that a team has a successful drive against this defense that offense exploiting this defense. That's just not an accurate way to use the term. The truth is that the 49ers have 2 decent drives in this game, or maybe 3. They didn't exploit anything. If you exploit something, that implies an ability to move it over and over and over and over again, and that's just not the case. But what allowed the 49ers to move the ball is that the Browns were a little bit too confident in the back end of their secondary. I think they just kind of left guys on islands, and while I think the secondary is really good, I think the defensive line's even better. And I think you can if you have to sacrifice people, I would say it makes more sense to me to take guys off the line of scrimmage and put them into coverage for this defense than to take guys out of coverage and put them on the line of scrimmage, if you're following what I'm saying. This next question comes from D Jackson, who says, based on how the defense is playing, what production numbers do we need for Watson to make a playoff run? You just simply want to make a playoff run? I mean, Watson can get like 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. You'll be in the playoffs. Promise you that. If you're expecting a Super Bowl caliber team, you probably want him north of 30 and below 11 interceptions. So somewhere along those lines. Obviously, it's going to have to be prorated for the games that he missed, but somewhere along those lines. Thank you for the question, D-Lit. The next question comes from Glenn Oliver, who says, keep up the fantastic work. What do you think our record will be at the end of the season if we make the playoffs? What would our idea matchup be? I got them going 11-5 or 10-6 at worst. If everything stays as it is, the Steelers and Chargers are the most ideal matchup. I would say the Buffalo Bills are probably my most ideal matchups. Because they don't overwhelm you with weapons on the offensive side. The big thing is that they can move guys on the defensive line, but I feel like you can neutralize that. You can neutralize their wide receivers, and you can get pressure. And when you get pressure on Josh Allen, he makes mistakes. And we have a guy in Myles Garrett who's big enough to tackle him. So I would go Buffalo would be on that list of teams that I feel like you match up well against. The Chargers, they're not necessarily a super fast team, but they spread. I think the Browns defense will do fine against them. Even like a team like Kansas City, we'll see what they are when they get Mecole Hardman back. But right now, like I would like to play the Chiefs as well. The only team in the AFC that I think gives the Browns real matchup problems is the Miami Dolphins because of how much man the Browns play and just how much speed they have on that team. Like speed breaks man defenses all the time. And that's the one team in the NFL that has enough speed to break this defense. So that's the only team I would not want to play. But every other team, I think this defense matches up well. But if you're looking for a best fit, it's probably Buffalo. Next question comes from Forrest, who says, this defense feels like it can win games in the regular season, but won't translate to a postseason atmosphere. When is it okay to panic about the offense? I don't know what makes you like, you would have to give me a more detailed reason on why you think that the Browns defensive style doesn't translate to the postseason. Like, unless it's just your own insecurity about this team and this team's ability to perform in the playoffs, I don't see how you got there logically. So I would need more information to really give you a good answer on why you think the defense isn't going to translate to the postseason. Right now, I see no reason why they wouldn't translate to the postseason. They have veteran players who've been there before. I just don't get that one. But when is it okay to start panicking about the offense? I would say if we get like at the end of November and it still is a mystery, then, you're not where you want to be, and you're probably just going to be under what you want to be for the rest of the year. The next question comes from Sir Mitchell, who says, do you believe more reps for PJ Walker would help him progress enough to do well in Indy and Seattle? In my opinion, we should just rest Watson until Arizona so he can ramp up and be ready for Baltimore. We can't. We have to remember. We really do have to remember. And it's easy to forget that and I don't think you're doing this on purpose. Let me preference this by saying that. But sometimes when we just casually talk about stuff like this, we talk about it like it's robotic. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a ramp up period for Deshaun Watson. And honestly, he's missed enough games over the last 3 years. You want him to play as soon as possible, right? As soon as it's medically safe for him to play, you want him to play, right? I think because if you keep kicking this can down the road, we're going to be in December talking about, we got to wait till next year to really see what he has because he didn't get time to get comfortable with the offense. I don't want that to be the case. So if you don't want that to be the case, you have to minimize the amount of games that he misses because of this injury. Right now, you're lucky because if he comes back against the Colts, he would have only missed 2 games for a 3-week injury. You're lucky. But if he continues to miss it, like if he misses another month of football, that's going to be bad. That's not good, right? That's not just, hey, plug him in and play. I think we learned this lesson last year where a lot of us, including myself, kind of assumed he would come back and just be fine. It wasn't that. He's not played enough football over the last couple of years. He cannot afford to miss more football games. He needs to play. And that goes for even if this team somehow gets an opportunity to rest at the last week. He needs to play. Unless he has shown that he is back to 2020 form, he needs to play, and he hasn't done that yet. So that's where I'm at. If he's healthy, he should play. If they make the determination that that's not going to get worse, that it's going to get better, that it's not at high risk, and he can perform to a reasonable extent, he should play. Thank you for the question. Cameron McBride says, is Mo Hurst the most underrated pickup this offseason? Has a 88 PFF grade and is ranked among 7th among defensive tackles. Now, PFF grades can be up and down, but you can just see it in the tape that Mo Hurst has been a very good player for this team. I would say, yeah, he's been an underrated pick for this team. I don't know how anybody can argue otherwise that he has been an underrated pick for this team. And I think he's been somebody that we had higher hopes than you would have for somebody in his position, given what he's done before when he stayed healthy, had a rough Hall of Fame game, but then came back and played really well after that. And he's been a pivotal piece to this defensive line room. So absolutely, it's an underrated pickup. And Dalvin Tomlinson being there, Jordan Elliott playing better. It's a nice, for the first time, we have a true rotation there at defensive tackle. And I can't tell you how much of a difference that makes. My man Aramos says, thanks, Q. Should we be putting Marquise Goodwin on gadget plays and end arounds? Dude has real NFL burner speed. Yeah, I remember when I talked to Tyvis, he said there's 2 guys who are super fast in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, Marquise Goodwin. So Marquise Goodwin is legit fast. Should we use him on them gadget plays? Yes, I think so. If you're going to want to run them. My question is, I've even seen Marquise Goodwin mess up those end arounds. So my question is like, hey, are the keys wrong on that? Like, is there something in the way that these things are being told to be read that just don't work in game speed? Because I'm seeing multiple guys take these end arounds wide since they've tried to do them the last couple of years. And it really shouldn't happen. And I'm just wondering, like, is it how it's being coached? Is it the keys that are difficult to read in real time? Like, something doesn't work there. But thank you for the question. And I don't think it's just a player. But Wes says, hey, do you see some encouragement from Watson driving some deep balls yesterday? Or you think he might still not play Sunday? All right, so here is what we know so far about Watson. I recorded this video Friday, October 20th. Here's what we know. He practiced Thursday, limited, came back, felt good enough to practice full today. He did a full practice today. Kevin said he looked good. Most of the media that was there said he looked good. Now, Mary Kay, who has been on top of it this whole time, right? When everybody else was worried and giving you conspiracy theories, she told you there was a rotator cup contusion. She was the first one out there on this, right? When everybody was confused, she was one of the few people that was on top of this figuring it out, right? So she knew that. She was telling us that the rehab had been going well during the bye week and well during the week. And then she told us, that things should be ticking in the right direction when it comes to that. So her opinion on this holds a lot more weight than I think most others do, given that she has access, given that she has sources in the building, especially with that medical staff, given that she's been consistently correct about the Deshaun Watson stuff when it comes to his shoulder and this whole fiasco. She has been exceptionally correct. And it's important to point that out. She says she expects him to play. She put a percentage on it. Now this is just her guess, not what she's hearing. This is her guess based on everything she knows and sees. She thinks it's a 95% chance he plays. I tend to agree with that. The more I see he's practicing, they're already preparing some apparatuses. He's wearing like a sleeve now. They're doing stuff that tells me he's playing. He took the first team reps. They're giving him like different equipment to wear to kind of help him feel better if he goes full speed and to be able to manage it. It to me feels like he's going to play. That's what it feels like to me. But that's it for this week's Q&A. Well, no, one more question. My bad. we have the YouTube member questions. Glenn says, hey, what do you think the best name for the defense that we've seen so far? I kind of like Lake Effect, but it should be more menacing than that. Let us know. My thing has been, I'm just going to say, whenever the Browns defense is out there, it's Lock City. But, you know, if a better nickname comes, we'll roll with it. It's just going to be a vibe, you know. Mike Siegel says, with the way DeWall Jones has been playing, what do you think AB's plan will be for Conklin? I don't think there's any way that Jones will lose his spot as a starter or that Conklin will be. Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about like veteran buyout or a trade with Conklin, more than likely, especially if DeWall keeps playing on this level. Yeah, that's more than likely happening. Jason says the Colts are a very underrated team, in my opinion. Do you think their offensive linemen, two good running backs, they have a way to find success against the Browns' run defense? Who are some of the guys on defense that stand out to you that could be game wreckers? I mean, DeForest Buckner is always somebody. Shaq Leonard, he has not been playing especially well, but he's always somebody that you have to watch out for having a good game. And they have a lot of solid pieces in between that, but the Colts aren't a team that you should sleep on. They have 3 wins just like the Browns. It's going to be a tough battle on the road. BF says, with how well the defense has been playing, do you have any concern Jim Schwartz will leave for a head coaching position next year, or am I getting too far ahead of myself? There's not a lot of head coaches that get hired or coordinators that get hired from the defensive side that aren't super young. That's the reality. The last guy was like Vic Fangio. That was like 5 years ago. It just doesn't happen that often. Jim Schwartz has already been a head coach as well, so there's not going to be a rush of people trying to get him. You could look at some of the veteran defensive coordinators that are doing well in the league. Not a lot of them get hired to be defensive coordinators. The Kansas City Chiefs, I believe they've had the same defensive coordinator for a while. Lou Anarumu's been there in Cincinnati for a while, despite that defense being the biggest part of that Cincinnati Bengals team. And I know that Joe Burrow and the Migos, they get a lot of of the pop publicity, but if you know and you watch that team, you know that that's a defensive oriented team that has some pieces on offense that get them over the hump. But yeah, Lou Anarumu, you know, these guys just don't get head coaching jobs. They're going to be coordinators. And for Jim Schwartz, I mean, he just got done with like the thyroid thing. He might not be in a spot where he wants to be a head coach again. It doesn't seem like he has any ambitions to be a head coach, but you know, if he does, it's still going to be one of those things where he's not going to be the most sought after guy on the market when it comes to finding a head coach, because teams like to get young coaches that they think are geniuses on whatever side of the ball. And if they can't get that, they'll get an offensive guy or a former head coach offensive guy. It's usually how it goes. But yeah, Jim, he's probably not leaving anytime soon unless he wants to retire. But that's what I think about that. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.